Put it up.
Nice, yeah. We're live here, guys, and we were just talking about it. First off, Rolland Market Mashup. Welcome to the show. We do this every day. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. And today is Friday the 13th, where who knows what's going to happen in this market, but it's Friday the 13th, and we start off with DraftKings, which had their earnings this morning, and their earnings were in line with expectations. I think the reason the stock's moving higher is they increased their guidance for the year. And just looking, they laid out their guidance to be around, I'd say, I think it's 850 million for the upcoming year. And when you think about it, just going through DraftKings, their market cap is like 16 billion. So if they're saying they're going to do like 850 million in revenues in the upcoming year, they're only legal for sports betting right now in like 9 states. And I'm sure they're anticipating they're going to add a few to the mix. But when you really just think about the future and maybe eventually all 50 are legal, right now it's 9. You got to think the sky for DraftKings is probably like over $5 billion a year just in the United States alone. And that makes me feel way better about their current market cap. I don't know what you guys are thinking about that. I mean, Dad, I know you like to dig into the actual fundamentals of looking at the numbers to make sure it's an actual good investment. What did you look at their earnings at all? I mean, what does it tell you?
Yeah, I mean, their earnings were only a slight beat, but they did increase guidance. And I think the fact that the stock has come off so much over the last few months that, that there was more upside after.
That's why I loved it yesterday. It was just beaten down enough. The risk didn't really outweigh the reward there.
And, the other side of it is what you're talking about. I mean, everyone knows the stock is overvalued, but it doesn't matter when you look at the potential. And that's what people are counting on for a lot of these casino/gaming stocks.
Yeah, and at least they're showing real numbers and showing that they're at least a legitimate company. And for our viewers, this is one of these SPAC companies that was taken public. I don't really know what that even means, but it's been this new thing that's been coming up a ton in the last year. And there's all these companies that are going public via SPAC. And all I know is that, when that time period releases where people are able to sell, seems like anything can kind of happen, and that's ultimately, I think, what caused DraftKings to sell off like $30 in a matter of weeks, which cut it in half. But yeah, I mean, the market is looking to continue the rally today. Everyone, if you watched TV yesterday, it sounded like the market was heading back to all-time lows and the coronavirus was taking over again. And they were talking about how Chicago went back into stay-at-home order, not an order, but like recommending it. But, I mean, if you really think about it, we had this insane rally on Monday from the vaccine, and the market kind of cooled off a little from that rally. And, a lot of stocks came down a lot from their highs, like the airlines and cruises. And now maybe the rally is going to continue. I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. Maybe this is just a trap for bulls right now. But yesterday was a good day for tech again. Actually, no, yesterday was a bad day, but there were a few hidden gems. And Dad, Fastly, right when the market closed, they came out and said that Alibaba wasn't going to be, or not Alibaba, TikTok's not going to be banned anymore, even though I don't think anyone ever thought that was going to happen. So does that ultimately mean that it's not being sold? I wonder if Oracle's selling off this morning. No, it's not. But I guess TikTok's not going to be sold anymore to a U.S. company. So naturally, Fastly is up nice on that news, because the reason Fastly sold off from 130 down to like 85 that one day was they announced that they were going to miss their revenues. And a big reason was because TikTok was using them way less. That's their biggest client because of everything happening between China and the United States. So Fastly had a good day yesterday. Clearly people knew that that news was going to come out. And then they went up more after hours. They're up more this morning. So, Dad, I know you and I were kind of looking at the short interest in some of these stocks this morning just to see if this could turn into more of a short squeeze. And it seems like that possibility is more out there for Fastly than it is for DraftKings. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, they both have big shorts, but, the key to short interest is how much volume the stock has per day, and then figuring out how many days it is to cover the shorts that are outstanding. So some of these stocks that trade 20, 30, 40 million shares a day, even if you have a high percentage of short interest, they're able to, the shorts are able to cover pretty quickly. I mean, sometimes you'll see a stock that has 50, 60 days before you can cover it based on the short interest and the typical volume in a stock. And those are the ones that really get squeezed big time.
But that's what we kind of saw at GameStop a few weeks ago.
There's no doubt these electric car companies are seeing a big squeeze in the shorts, but with, and add in some fundamentals, whatever they are. I mean, it's obviously not earnings.
Yeah, well, Li Auto actually did have their earnings this morning.
And they were okay, right?
Yeah, apparently they beat the revenues. And I'm just looking now, these, like you just said, the electric vehicle companies, some of them are in China. I think Li Auto is one of the ones that's in China, right?
Yeah, and they actually, are actually selling cars. Unlike
are actually legit. Fisker is the one I was telling you about, Mike, yesterday, and they're up again, I think 10% this morning. But, and this is one of these stocks that is another one of these SPAC companies. They're currently valued at like $1 billion. They just went public like a month ago, basically, and they're out of California. They don't actually have anything yet.
I'm not touching any of that crap. I think it's all fluff.
Yeah, like you can look them up and see that they're coming out with an electric vehicle car in 2022. And, the stock is just getting tons of love. I could see it doubling from here, just literally off of nothing, because this space is just out.
I'd rather be owning stocks that actually have working products. I'm not interested in the whole timeline of a what if. I love future stories when you have a guaranteed product. Like PLTR, Dan, that you brought up yesterday. I jumped on them, and I listened to their earnings and I was loving it. I feel like it's a stock that'll get a couple contracts and it'll go through the moon.
They're basically quiet spies, right, Mike?
What?
It's basically a quiet spy company.
Yeah, exactly. It's Peter Thiel, Alex Karp are behind it, and it's just the writing's on the wall. They'll be reading minds in a few years, and they're shadily working their way to it. What?
They have a couple of defense contracts. They can't tell you what they are, obviously.
Yeah, it's just, you could tell they're so ahead of the game, like Peter Thiel is with everything. The guy's trying to inject himself with who knows what to live longer. But whenever he's behind something, we were joking yesterday, but it's crazy when you have two public companies reporting earnings on the same day. He had that with CMPS and PLTR yesterday. Yeah. And CMPS, even, they missed earnings, but it didn't even seem to matter because they're so far out.
There's no revenues there yet. It doesn't even matter. That's not
well, they were also highlighting the Oregon whole thing with the decriminalization and the mushrooms, and it seems like they were trying to just stiff arm that. Like that had nothing to even do with their roadmap. Yeah. So I like hearing that, though, because it's basically setting up for, hey, we're doing our thing. Regardless of government regulations, this is where we're heading.
Yeah, and back to the Palantir thing for a second. I didn't listen to the call, but I was just like kind of reading what they were talking about this morning a little. And the company's been around for quite some time. It's not like
years.
They've never made a profit, but it sounds like they used to focus on customized data that was really expensive for them to do because it was a client-by-client basis. And it sounds like they're going in the direction of more like off-the-shelf product, where instead of like having to customize each thing for each different client, it's a standard thing that they're able to sell to clients. And apparently, based on what they're saying, that's going to help them actually become a profitable company. So they also lost way more money this past quarter than they previously have, but I think that was just something related to coming public and people getting compensated. So that
they had a good earnings. It was their first earnings ever, which is always a thing to worry about as a shareholder, making sure it's not, going to shit the bed. But it definitely, they seem like they've been relying on top heavy deals with the government, and they were trying to lay out the whole, listen, we're not going to be so reliant on that with the deals we're getting in place now.
Yeah, well, that's a big, the negative is if you have customers that are more than 20% of your total, and if you lose them.
Yeah, we know how the world works, though. It's all rigged. Peter Thiel has such insane networks in that world that I know how the game works at the top, and he's in the right. Him and Alex Karp know everybody, and they're in bed with governments and pretty much any mover and shaker in the world. It's a cloud-based security company. I would not want to be competing against those guys.
Yeah, well, look, watch Palantir. It'll be an interesting stock to watch. It's gone on a heck of a run. It was basically at 9 a week ago.
But it's at a discount compared to others in the space. That's why I jumped on it yesterday.
I think it's a good long-term play because there's not many that play in this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the second thing is it's a great day trade.
And it's reputable. They have the people behind them. It's not, and people buy into jockeys. They like buying in the leaders.
And just to give a quick touch on the markets here, we got the Dow looking like it's going to be up over 220 points, S&P up over 25, which is about 0.71%, and tech up 80 points, which is about 0.67. And then let's talk about Disney for a second. I'm annoyed because I own Netflix and not Disney. And when you look at it,
you own Disney.
Well, no, not well. I own like a tiny amount of Disney, but my big position's in Netflix, like my main position with that. And I was looking this morning. Both companies basically have the exact same amount of subscribers. The difference is Disney's is a new thing, and theirs is obviously growing, and Netflix is starting to slow down growth. And the other difference is Disney has a million other things going for it, if you ask me, outside of like just a streaming service. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Netflix is making their own content and stuff like that, but the companies are basically valued at the same levels. Disney's worth a little bit more. I know not everything's about market cap, but I'm annoyed with Netflix. I feel like I got to dump the position. When you look at like a day like yesterday where it seemed like some of these stay-at-home stocks were starting to get a look because of the COVID, and a day like today where tech looks to be up good and Netflix is probably going to be down today. It's only up $1.
Disney also has Hulu, right?
Yeah.
They have Hulu, they have ESPN.
Which Hulu has been impressive too. They have some stuff on there.
Hulu's got some great stuff on right now. For example, this Stephen King novel, 11/22/1963. They made a mini series starring James Franco. It's fabulous.
Yeah, they have a lot of great biographies on there. Either way, I think we've talked about with Netflix, their issue is competition, and it's like, okay, what else? Like you said with Disney, Dan, they have a lot of other stuff in their arsenal. Naturally, it's Disney. What is Netflix doing in the years ahead?
I know, I'm with you, and that's why I got to dump the stock, and I'm probably going to today. I'm going to take a loss on it, and at the end of the day, it's going to be fine because I need to take some losses against some gains. And I don't really believe – I don't see what's going to cause that stock to get to like 600. You know what I mean?
With you. I've never even owned Netflix. I wish I did years ago, but at this point, it's hard to – I'm a Disney holder. I'm glad I'm in the green on that now. I was kind of flat on it. And now – Amazon I own, Apple I own. They all have streaming services.
Exactly, and to me, they all have way other things.
The other thing Disney talked about was they were basically scolding California for not allowing Disneyland to be open because they have the best safety features in Florida. But now
must be talking to Bill de Blasio. He's trying
with COVID as bad as it is now, I think. You got to look way ahead, and that's when Disney will be open everywhere and the virus will be over. And that's just the way to look at it. They actually cut out their dividend for the next quarter, which, if someone told me Disney was cutting their dividend to zero, I would say, wow, the stock must be down 10%. So it's quite a different world we live in.
Yeah, seriously. To me, that's almost just a sign for investors that, the worst is, I don't want to say behind them, but they know what they're going to have to deal with over the really foreseeable future.
Disney just has so much oomph with that subscription model too, with the streaming, with I think where AR's heading with kids. And I just think they're going to be looping in families on a whole nother level virtually. That's what they've learned from this pandemic is, okay, we're not open, but what can we do to make money off people from their screens? And that's where Disney has a lot of room in the years ahead.
I personally think the stock could go way higher today, but that just obviously depends on what the market's going to do. Dad, what are your thoughts on the market as a whole here? It's
Man,
tough, right?
it's so tough to figure from day to day here. It's the end of the year. You got this election crap going on. You got the virus. Everything points to it being down, so it's probably going to go up.
And I will say, I know I like to bring this up a lot, but it's been so helpful for me and hopefully for our viewers when I bring it up, is this guy that I keep following that I have like the subscription to, that's the chartist, Sven Henrik. You guys could look him up on Twitter. I'll give him a shout out because he's been fantastic and comes on CNBC every so often. He lives in Europe, so he's on a different time. But he basically looks at technicals within charts and makes trades based off of technicals, only trades futures. So he's not talking about individual stocks, but he's great with the S&P and with the NASDAQ in general. And yesterday, when the S&P hit its 5-day moving average, he put something out to his subscribers saying the S&P is now at its 5-day moving average. It's either going to bounce off of here or the bears are about to take over control. And that was it. It immediately bounced off of there. It was actually, it's insane when these people map out the technicals, how when it happens, because obviously, look, at the end of the day, you got millions of people who are obviously looking at the same signals on a chart. So when they see something coming to a certain level, they're thinking, okay, this is the level where people are going to step in and buy. And it's become so common that you almost have to respect the technicals until there's something else that comes into play that takes over.
Yeah. And to add to that, the computer programs that the brokers put in to buy and sell stocks with various ideas, they put in those technical levels. So they're going to work, at least short term, because of the sheer amount of people playing them, like you said. I mean, it's almost inevitable that it happens.
Yeah. And, what I was telling you guys was that when, I forget the exact time I said it, I think it was when the market was about 1,000 points lower than it is right now, the NASDAQ. That's when he took the long on the NASDAQ as the hedge. And he's kind of, throughout this entire pandemic, kind of been riding the shorts on the Russell and the S&P. And for the most part, it's worked out fantastic. And the NASDAQ's kind of been his hedge. And he scales it out along the way. And now he's got a tiny bit of it left. I think he ultimately is structurally a huge bear and thinks that the market's just beyond overvalued. But he's been really, really good lately and clearly has like a good pulse at this moment. That's what I've realized with these people. They go through stretches of like being on and then being off. And when they're on, they're on. And you gotta respect the fact that they have a good pulse on what's happening.
Yeah, no question. It's definitely something you have to watch if you're day trading, right?
Yeah, like today, I think at least from my perspective, is a day where I'm going to be looking to, try and build up some more cash, take some profits. I think, the market's been so volatile and there's clearly a lot of unknowns still. I still think like everything is basically trading as if things are going to be perfect with the vaccine rollout. And everyone's going to just be vaccinated and everything's going to go back to normal.
There's another thing happening with this virus because there's so many cases now. I mean, you're going to get to the point it's going to be 1 million cases a week. And at some point, people are going to start talking about the herd immunity. So if you add that into the amount of people that are going to get the vaccine, you may get to the point where the virus will be less of a factor faster because the virus is so bad now. If this lasts for a few months, you're going to have, 20 million people that get it here.
Yeah, the problem is they're saying that the antibodies don't last. So what does herd immunity even do?
Well, it helps. I mean, the antibodies last for a while. And then if you have the vaccine,
yeah, that's also still the verdict's out on that. Supposedly the antibodies do last, and that's been starting to be proven more. So I don't really
hear of a lot of people getting it twice.
There's only been actual one case of that legitimately in Asia. So they're the whole getting it twice.
For a couple hours.
Yeah.
What?
I technically, oh, that's the other thing, actually. I'm glad you just brought that up because I don't know if you guys saw what Elon Musk tweeted.
Yes.
Yeah, and they were actually talking about it on CNBC this morning. He basically said how he wasn't feeling well, so he went and got tested 4 times, and 2 of them were negative and 2 of them were positive. And he was like, this whole thing's such bogus. And, well, he didn't say this whole thing's such bogus. He was basically like, something's not right with this whole testing system because how am I going to have 2 positives and 2 negatives? And, you know, he's been kind of questioning the legitimacy of the way we're portraying the virus as a whole. And this kind of adds to that. So it doesn't
kind of like the polling system. It's like impossible to know what's what. It's crazy.
Yeah, but Elon's definitely a guy that I think people pay attention to and respect his opinion, especially when it comes to, you know, science. Like, that's a guy that when he early on was like, this isn't quite as bad as people think, even though he's not like a disease expert. I was kind of hearing him, and I was like, you know what? If there's anyone that's going to make that statement, who's probably done his homework.
Well, it was also in his best interest to say that to keep people working. So
yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, so Dad, yesterday I was looking, and I should have, but I didn't. And I'm thinking to myself, like, of the cruises and airlines have come down quite a bit from that pop they had Monday. It's probably a good buying opportunity for all of them, unless you think that things aren't on their way back to normal and this pop's just going to get faded like all the other pops. But this vaccine feels different.
No, I think you could look at these again. You know, they've come down quite a bit from 2 days ago. They're actually up today. The one
I can save. I sold that 25% higher than where it is.
Yeah, I think save go higher from here, but you know, the one I would stay away from unless it gets down further is CCL because of this offering. I mean,
gotcha.
You just don't know when they're going to announce that they're doing more stock, and that's why the stock is not, you know, it's acting much worse than everything else. It got up over 20, and look how much it's down in 2 days.
Yeah, that's the one I always look at when I'm just looking at the cruise sectors in general. So what, you think Royal Caribbean might be a better one?
I keep going back to Booking. I know I've mentioned it a million times. It's the quiet one in the group that, you know, really is a good way to play it.
Yeah, but if you're playing it for an investment, that sounds awesome. If you're playing them for trades, does that get as big of volume and the movement that these other stocks get?
No, I think you have to play the other ones if you're doing a day trade. Save
is a good one today because I got out of that early in the week at like 23 and change.
I rather play the airlines, I think, than the cruises because the cruises still seem further out than the airlines a little bit.
And DraftKings is now up 12%.
I'm into this. I sold a couple of hundred already. I'm just gonna.
Of what?
I'm finally breaking even on the stock.
I'm not. I'm still $5 in the red.
I'm up huge on DraftKings. I went hard on them early in the week with that Mark Roberts thing, and luckily held on when I was talking shit. So
I'm in at 51.34.
Yeah, you're almost.
Yeah. I'm 40-50.
I didn't sell any though during the bloodbath. I feel pretty good.
Do I just dish this now fully?
You know, I think what you do is you sell a small amount. I mean,
I think the stock that's going to be the one that gets the big move today, or not a big move, but a great trade, is going to be Penn. It's going to get the sympathy boost because of DraftKings. They had phenomenal earnings, and they've sold off a bit, I think, because people are trying to play these other casino names because Penn's been acting well really this whole time. But you know, I still ultimately go back to that new law that they passed, and Penn's got the Barstool Sportsbook betting app. So when you look at whatever DraftKings is saying, that applies to Penn too. When you look at more states legalizing it, you look at the Portnoy effect. I like Penn. It's at 60.
You know, I bought a little win yesterday for the first time in a long time.
And, you know, what are the chances a company like Wynn buys Penn?
I don't think right now they can't afford it. You know, these companies are struggling to survive. so they're not looking to buy. I know, Las Vegas Sands basically put themselves up for sale. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but Steve Wynn's off from 105, got down to 86. So that kind of looks interesting to me. And that's just in the last 4 days.
Dad, are you selling any Fastly?
No, I haven't sold any Fastly. I like the idea that this thing can get back up above. If you look at the chart on this thing, it has this pattern. Let's see, go look at the daily.
I ditched half my DraftKings.
I mean, I could see Fastly getting up to like 95 to 100. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I could see Fastly getting up to 350 in the next few years and being like another Twilio, to be honest, but not really. Twilio's got way more of a story to them than Fastly, if you ask me. I'm a big holder of Twilio, and I think, they had a great earnings a few weeks ago, and they're below where they were before their earnings, and I think at some point they're going to start trending. I mean, no, they've been trending higher. Actually, not really. They're back and forth between like 275 and 310. Today will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, what other names do you like here?
Well, I mean, Snapchat, like I told you guys, was a great day that day. Just tech was selling off. They got another upgrade yesterday. They were up like 8% all day.
Yeah, Deutsche Bank?
What?
Deutsche Bank, I think, upgraded them yesterday.
Maybe. Yeah. They also came out suggesting that people get taxed extra if they work from home.
Yeah, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But
It doesn't make me like the stock.
No, if anything, I would tell Deutsche Bank to figure out how to make a profit.
That's typical bullshit.
Why, Mike? All of a sudden, you're in black and white.
What?
Yeah, Mike, your internet's a little it's a little choppy at the moment.
That's weird.
Yeah, another stock that I've owned for a while that has just been kind of stuck in this range, but I think is a great company. I don't know what's going to cause them to really get to that next level, but Take-Two, TTWO, I think this is a good buy at these levels. I own some. I'm up nice on it. I'm in it from 142. They were way higher, a few months ago.
Yeah, them and Activision, you could just pick your poison. They're both at good levels. I don't really understand. I think they just kind of run in sync.
Yeah, and Ford was on Kramer last night, the CEO. He's kind of a character. I don't know if you saw him.
No, I didn't. I got to listen to that.
Yeah, he was a race car driver, apparently. So he's really into cars.
Good. Ford needs a car guy.
I also bought some more BABA yesterday when it dipped under 264. It was just, I feel like these levels are tough to ignore.
Yeah, I think BABA's okay. The one thing with BABA, every mutual fund owns that stock. It's kind of like Apple.
I'm not a fan of that.
But I think BABA's okay. And then Tencent is the other one that they all own.
Who's that Asia dating? Is it Momo? Is that the site that's just gotten beaten to a pulp? Because I've been following Match a lot, and it just seems like Asia dating. It's insane. I'm kind of surprised that stock is. I don't know if it's a good buying opportunity here. Have you guys looked at that at all?
Yeah, I've looked at it. Momo, M-O-M-O. Darren used to own that back in the day. I used to follow it more. I think ultimately people right now are freaked out of what happened with the Ant IPO and the way China is just able to step in and do whatever they want. I don't know. I just have no interest in owning any of those names right now. When you look at what some of these U.S. stocks are doing, why even mess around with it?
I just think if Biden's going to be president, it's more of just the sentiment is there's going to be more, amicable on the front at least.
Good, Mike, for the U.S. companies that are over there. I'm not so sure about the Asian because that has nothing to do with our election.
Then why do they even allow them on the stock exchange then? If that's even a thing, it's like, then why don't we just completely ditch that?
My
Well-
buddy just asked if Denny's stock will go up if Tiger wins the Masters and competes.
Denny's the
You know,
food.
he's
Is it Tiger butter?
What?
no, I'm not even gonna say it, but it's
Well,
great comment. He was
Make the money end the week strong. Rolland Market Mashup. Subscribe and
No Tiger Woods.
see you Monday.
Tiger played great yesterday.
Oh my